Hello, welcome everyone to the Nonprofit Coach. Our webinar today is how to maximize your Google Grant impact. Elizabeth Finlayson, who is the CEO and lead coach, is on vacation this week, so I get to be the host. But she wanted to send her good wishes, and she's looking forward to watching the webinar when she gets back. So you can go ahead to the next screen if you want, Matt. So one of the things that Elizabeth always wants folks to know is that the mission of the Nonprofit Coach is to create a fairer, more equitable and inclusive world filled with empathy and beauty. And our team does this by supporting our nonprofit clients through coaching, strategic planning, fundraising, and board training and group support sessions. And since Elizabeth's on vacation, I'm your host for today, and I am Diana Clegg. I've had an opportunity to work with Elizabeth actually in a variety of capacities. I've hired her as a consultant when I was a executive director at an organization, and now I have the opportunity to do some work with her. So it's great to be here and to have all of you here with us. And it's an exciting day for me because we are having Matt Cardoni as our guest speaker. And he's going to be talking to us about Google Grant ads, the intricacies of kind of demystifying those. So I'll go ahead and let Matt introduce himself.
Thank you, Diana. Welcome, everybody. I'm Matt Cardoni, owner and digital lead of Green Lightning Marketing, and I've been doing digital marketing for about 25 years, specializing in Google Grants. I've gotten over 40 of them for different nonprofits, and I'm excited to be here, and thank you for joining. I do want this to be a conversation, so please feel free to chime in whenever you'd like, via either voice or video or chat. So however you feel most comfortable. And I teach at Northwestern. I teach the similar topics, paid search, SEO, and analytics, conversion rate optimization. Without further ado, let's also we want to, Diane, do you want to speak to this about what else is on the horizon?
Yeah, go ahead to the next screen.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, just wanted to let you know that in terms of the webinar series, these are bi-monthly, and Elizabeth started doing those during the pandemic. It was an opportunity to reach out, get connected, have some of her clients get information on things that they needed, connect people across nonprofits. And the way she structures them is it's either a deep dive into a specific slice of a broader topic or a general overview of a topic. So it's not to take the place of any kind of paid trainings that you might attend, or if you're working with consultants and coaches on some of these things, it doesn't replace that, but it's a great way to get some good tips and some good general information. So, and there will be more upcoming, so we'll talk about that at the end.
So let's dive in. This is the rough agenda we're going to cover, but if you do have questions, as I mentioned, chime in. What are Google Grants? Why should you use them? How do you find your target audience? How can you get around the $2 maximum cost per click limit? And how do you keep the grant active? And first, I want a quick poll to learn a little more about the audience here today. How many of you use Google Grants? And how familiar are you with how Google Ads work? Please answer the questions now, and just to give us a rough idea of, how deep I should go in my explaining of certain topics.
Yeah, there should be a button you can push to answer your questions. Give you a minute more. All right, looks like everybody's voted, so I'll go ahead and share the results. Okay. Can you see, are the results showing up on the screen?
Yes, I see them.
Great.
Yeah, so it looks like a good mix.
Yeah, familiar with Google Ad Grants. So some folks don't have any familiarity, and some have. Definitely some. And
Great.
we've got a bunch of fairly savvy people. So that's great.
Cool. Well, thank you. And that helps. So diving in first, what is a Google grant? Google donates $10,000 a month in Google search ad traffic to qualifying nonprofits. So that means if you are a nonprofit, a 501c3 that is non-education and non-religious, you can qualify for a Google grant, which represents $10,000 a month in Google traffic for your organization's website. This is an example of what those ads look like. This is an ad for Working Bikes, which is a nonprofit here in Chicago. And I wanted to just show you what an example of an SEO or an organic result looks like below it. They actually look very similar, as you might notice. The key difference here visually is this ad. That's really pretty much the only difference that the layperson can identify, from afar. But they're managed very differently. And so the goal of the Google grant, or the effect of the Google grant, are these ads here with the blue arrow. And then what kind of impact do they have? They can have a significant impact on your organization's traffic. And here's an example of the traffic breakdown by channel for one of the organizations that I got a Google grant for. And you can see the paid search, that's the traffic from the Google grant. So over half of the website traffic comes, for this particular organization, comes from the Google grant. And depending on the size of your organization, $10,000 a month in Google traffic can be a lot of traffic. And so I would keep in mind that, especially if you're a smaller organization, this can be a really large asset for you. You can uncover new audiences, you can uncover traffic you hadn't discovered before, or go deeper on traffic that you already knew that you were familiar with but you wanted more of. So let's move along. Why should you use why should you use these Google grants? First, I'm going to start with a joke. It's a pretty bad joke, warning. But where did the digital marketer hide the dead body? Some of you may have heard this already, but the answer is on the second page of Google. And the joke really tries to highlight the importance of being on page one, which is what these grants can achieve for you for your priority keywords. So that's a number one top reason in general to use a Google grant, is to show up in Google for your keywords that are important to your organization. You can also drive more relevant website traffic, steal traffic from competitors, reach new audiences, like people in different geographies that didn't know about you. And you can even drive donations. One of my clients, Working Bikes, their example, they found a donor who lived in Florida who had never even heard of them and just was looking, where can I donate to a nonprofit? And now they get like $5,000 a month in like cash from them. So like this kind of discovery could potentially be a gold mine. Now that doesn't happen a lot. Like they've had the grant for, I think, 12 or 14 years. I got it for them like I think 12 years ago, and this is the first time I've heard of that particular, like somebody was just looking to hand out free cash to a nonprofit randomly on Google and found them. But the point is, you can reach new audiences, and they can really translate into donations, registrations for events, video views, and document downloads. And how do you find your target audience? So I want to go into a couple live demos, but a quick reminder, don't forget that you have a ton of data at your disposal with your current set of customer lists. So you have, I'm sure, like top donors lists, and analytics has a ton of data. And so with that in mind, I'm actually going to hop over to an analytics account and show you the kind of insights that you can gain from using your analytics and your Google Ads account. So first, analytics, feel free to follow along if you want to. You don't have to if you don't have a Google Analytics account pulled up nearby. But within the within the audience tab, there's a section called demographics and interests and geo behavior. All of these tabs here between demographics and technology, they give you some really interesting insights about your audience. So this tells you here that for this particular nonprofit, Heartland Health Centers, age group that indexes the highest on their site is the 25 to 34-year-old range. And you can also go into gender and see like who is accessing it most frequently. I usually use this pie chart to give a more visual representation, and it looks like females use it more than males. So this kind of data can help you craft your content. It can help you craft your marketing message for your other channels. So for example, like if you know that most of your traffic is coming from females between the ages of 24 to 34, then you're going to want marketing materials and messaging that appeals and targets that audience in other channels. Similarly, the interests category is quite interesting. The #1 affinity category for the audience in this website is cooking enthusiasts and 30-minute chefs. Now, that may seem irrelevant to Heartland Health Centers, but when you're dealing with, a medical facility, apparently people who are dealing with that are also interested in cooking. So what that means is maybe they want to offer a cooking class. Maybe they want to have an offer that targets that appears in a cooking magazine or a cooking show. But the point is, you can learn a lot about your audience just by looking at the data that you already have in your analytics.
Yeah, it's amazing how much information is in there.
Yeah, it's kind of scary, almost creepy.
Just use it for good.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then another example I want to show you is within the Google Grant itself. Now, this is Google Ads interface, which is where the Google Grants are managed. And you can see one of my favorite tabs in the left panel, the left navigation bar, is the demographics household income. And you can see that in this particular example, this is for Heartland Health again. I charted cost and cost per conversion. So a conversion in this case is somebody who like makes an appointment or donates or there's actions beyond a click. And what you see here is that they're spending, and cost per conversion tends to be their primary KPI. So they want to drive a lot of conversions at a low cost. So what you see here is that like the top 10% of income, like the people who are making more than other people are, they're spending, about three grand in the last several months on them. And it's driven about a $30 cost per conversion. The interesting part here is that you see that for the lower 50%, compared to this one, they're much different. And you can see that they spent very little on this particular segment, the 41 to 50% income level. And it also has the highest cost per conversion. So this is actually good news for this nonprofit, because what it tells you is they're spending the least on the most expensive converting traffic. So this shows me that this cost per conversion for the lower 50% is fairly expensive on a per conversion basis. And they're spending a fair amount on it. They're spending the most on this category. So if I were going to advise them on how to optimize the spend across their demographics related to income, I would actually recommend they lower the amount that they're investing in this lower 50% income bracket, just because it looks like they would benefit more by investing in something with a lower cost per conversion, such as the top 10% or 31 to 40. And to adjust that, you can do a simple thing called a bid adjustment. And here's this column, and if it doesn't appear by default, you can modify all these columns over here on the right. So you just pick whatever column you want, but I had already pulled it up, so I'm just gonna. So let's say we wanted to lower this bid on the lower 50%. You go down to the. I have to make this a little longer. You go down to the lower 50% income level. And here we are. And then in the bid adjustments, you just basically reduce the amount that you're bidding on it. So this particular campaign is paused, but I'll do the physical. So you decrease by, let's say about like 25% is a typical amount. So any $10 bid you were bidding on will become $7.50. You just basically reduce the aggressiveness of your bids. And I'm going to explain more about what that means very soon. But this is just a real tactical way to optimize your your bids and your spend and how you're prioritizing your investments within the grant.
And Matt, can you
So
just remind us
I love
again
this.
what the conversions are? You set those yourself, right? What is
Correct. I'm actually going to go through a quick example of doing
right?
that. Yes, and I can hop over there now. So like for this particular client, if you, their conversions are under the conversions tab and under overview goals. And in this case, they have people that visit the donations page, or that people that visit the your visit page. And I'll show you what that looks like in real life, because it gives you a little more context. So this your visit page, it gives you people that visit this are considered a goal, because it shows that they're really preparing for their visit at the site. And so we could add a few more conversions to this. Like if you want the video tips, this would be a great thing to tag as another conversion point. The other conversion points include access to your medical records page. So again, if we go here and we look at people that are accessing this particular page, is registered as a goal in analytics. So then it also gets imported into Google Ads, so that you can then use the grant to drive more valuable traffic with these sorts of system setups, configurations. So I want to take a pause and just make sure all that is clear. It's kind of advanced, but after you practice it a few times, I recommend even practicing while we're doing it. You know, it becomes a lot easier to kind of understand how to apply these sort of insights. But I'd say the overview is there's tons of data in here, and after you get started practicing, my favorite way to learn Google Ads is just to practice, especially with Google Grants, because you're not actually spending real dollars, you're spending Google's money. And so I just think it's a great thing when you're spending Google's money instead of your money.
Right.
So.
Does anyone have any questions at this point on anything Matt's talked about so far? Feel free to drop stuff in the chat too as we're going, or jump in there.
Well, I'll charge ahead unless there's any burning questions. So you can also, I mentioned the interest categories. You can also create content, obviously, that relates to the audience segment. So like if you're noticing, for example, that let's say, for example, like using the same one, that the lower 50% are not converting well, it could also mean that maybe you need content that resonates with them more. So there's several ways you can optimize the funnel. One is to optimize the front end, which is this Google grant, where maybe you want to spend less on that audience, or maybe you want to optimize your website so that it appeals to them more and converts more efficiently. So those are the different things you want to think about when you're really optimizing your whole web presence. And then moving on to how can I get around the $2 maximum cost per click bid limit. So first, this is kind of the nuts and bolts of Google Ads. And I'm going to do, so ad rank, which is your position in Google that your ad appears in, is based on two things, your CPC bid and your quality score. And so that means that to improve your rank in Google with your ads, you need to either increase your bid or increase your quality score. So that also means that if you improve your quality score, you're going to pay less money, and your money will go further for your grant. So the takeaway is that it behooves you to optimize your quality score to the highest it can possibly be. It's a score from 1 to 10. And I'm going to show you how to do that exactly in the next slide. So quality score depends on all of these factors: historical performance, click-through rate, overall account quality. The thing that I think you should remember is these three last ones. These are the three that you can control. And that means that ad copy, keywords, and your landing page is the magic triumvirate for how to maximize your quality score. So the actionable takeaway is that you should design your Google Ads campaigns and select your ads and your keywords based on the landing page. So when they're all related to each other and they use the same kind of language, you're going to increase your quality score to the most it can be. So I'm going to actually hop out again and show you an example of what this looks like in real life. Um, so like if I go to the keywords tab, and then let's click into a single campaign and then go to the keywords tab. So we'll take this one. Go to keywords, and you can see Google actually publishes the quality score for your keywords. And here it is. If it's not up there by default, again, you can adjust the columns just by clicking on the columns and go to modify columns, and then go to quality score, and then make sure this box is checked. And then you can also, if you want to know what your historical quality score was, or if it's based on the ad or the keyword or the landing page, we can add all of those. So what this tells me here is that Heartland Health has a quality score of 8 out of 10, which is great, but it's also their brand term, so it's not a big surprise. I'm going to sort by lowest quality score because that'll give us an idea of which ones we should focus on first. So, for example, it looks like kids clinic. Let's work on children's dental health. So that one has no quality score, so it's basically not registering at all. So let's look at the ads and see if there's an opportunity to add children's mental health as into the ads. And I don't see, I see child's health, I see care for infants and children, but I don't see the specific keyword children's dental health. So what I would do if I was going to try to optimize the quality score is basically create another ad. Oops. Google makes it a little challenging I find this interface, because if you do, okay, we'll edit this one. And then, wait, this is the senior care ad. This is the pediatrics one. So dental care for children, that one's already there, at least in the headline, but we probably need to add it in the description too. So just to orient yourself, in case you haven't seen the ad interface yet, this is a responsive ad. And Google will take these like 10 or 15 description lines and they'll mix and match them. And they can have 3 headlines per ad. And you can have up to 2 description lines. So basically just kind of do like dental and get affordable care. I would actually, okay, let's change this one to be like so and just create a general ad, which is pretty, you know, the most important thing is to get those keywords in there. And then in addition to getting them on the ad, you also want to make sure they appear on the landing page. So, so we'll just quickly visit the landing page and see if there's an opportunity to basically, yeah, I don't see dental. Yeah, they have dental services here, but it would be cool if we added a little more like children's dental visits. So that's the keyword that we're trying to improve quality score on. So you want to see it in both the ad and the landing page. So that hopefully that makes sense. It's kind of at the risk of stating the obvious. It's a little bit of common sense, but when you understand the metrics of quality score and how it's created, that kind of gives you the why this is so important. Because the more you do this kind of optimization of quality score and improve these scores over here, the better your traffic is going to be, and the more traffic you're going to get. So that's kind of the why you do it. And then, and I would do this kind of thing on pretty much like a weekly or monthly basis at least. I'll go into a few more best practices in a little bit, but the point is, this kind of optimization can go on a regular basis, and you can kind of you could spend all your time optimizing your quality score. But I do think it's the foundation of Google's algorithm. So I think it's really important to understand why it works, and that gives you a little more, I guess, impetus into why you should actually do anything about it. So now getting back to the $2 maximum CPC limit, I want to explain that for just a second. Using the typical starter bid strategy of manual CPC, Google limits the maximum bid amount of a Google grant to $2 per click. So let me just explain what I mean when I say that. In Google Ads, each campaign has a bid strategy associated with it. And so in order to see that, you can go to the settings tab under campaigns. And you can see in this one, like here, this teleconference 2020 has a maximize clicks of a bid strategy. And that just means Google will automatically adjust the bids to get you as many clicks as possible. That sounds great, but to be honest, Google wants you to focus more of your attention on conversions because it tends to drive more value for the nonprofit. So, so in order to do that, they've incentivized us to use more conversion-based bid strategies, because that will auto-adjust the different bids in the auction so that you get more conversions with your clicks. So Google has since, in the last several years, basically incentivized us by removing the $2 cost per click limit on the bid strategies that are conversion based. Because usually with manual CPC, which is the most foundational, it's the introductory bid strategy that is out of the box used by Google. That one has a limit of $2. So it prevents us from competing with the large organizations that can afford like $10 and $20 per click. But to get around that limit, just use the maximize conversions bid strategy, and then you can bid up. It'll automatically bid up as high as it needs to get you the clicks. So I'll show you how to do that now because it sounds easy, and it actually is. And here are the steps. So first, you create the goal and analytics, and this is what Diana was just talking about a few minutes ago. Like, how do you tag a goal? So in this case, let's do, if we wanted to, let's tag visits to the health insurance page. That's a simple goal that we can just add here. So I'll copy this. So if someone's looking at health insurance, it's fair to say they're probably more interested than average. So we'll tag that as the goal. So you go to the admin section of Google Analytics, and you go to the goals section, and you click new goal. And here you have a lot of options, and this, I could spend weeks going into the details of this. I'm not going to. I'm just going to show you how to do it in this particular example. In this case, we're going to do a custom and continue, and we'll call this visit health insurance page, and we'll call it it is a destination as opposed to all these other ones. And we'll say if it begins with health insurance. So we're going to delete the rest of the URL. And if you know how much that goal is worth to you, you can add a specific dollar value to it. I'm not going to do that in this case because I don't really know how much that is to them, but then we save it. And now it's a goal in analytics. So it's helpful sometimes to test your goal in real time. So just look at the real-time report. And you can see that here, I think this is me because, yeah, health insurance we go to the conversions report, goal hits, visit the health insurance page. I'm going to go ahead and hit refresh on this. So we have now visited the health insurance page. Let's see if it works. Whoops. There it is. There's my visit to the health insurance page on the goal hits real-time conversion report. So so it's good. The goal is tracking in analytics. And the next thing you want to do is go over to your Google Ads grant and you go to tools and settings and you go to conversions. And then you click this blue plus sign and you import it from Google Analytics. And then you select the goal that you want to import. This is the one that we just made, visit health insurance page. Import and continue. And now you've imported that goal. So what I might do now is, I think it would be smart to create a new campaign around health insurance and say, like, let's say there's, you want to target people who are looking for Blue Cross Blue Shield or somebody that accepts whatever insurance that you have. Then we can create a campaign around that has those keywords and drives to this landing page. And then we'll basically use the maximize conversion bid strategy. And then it'll get you as many visits to that page, or as many goal completions as possible within your daily budget. So that's how you do it. It seems really simple when I do it like that because I've done this a million times, but I would also offer to anybody on this call that if you want a free hour of my time where we just connect one-on-one, feel free to reach out to me via email. My email is just mattcardoni@gmail.com. It's a value add that I offer to presentations like this. So so feel free if you want to like troubleshoot. I recommend coming with a specific problem to solve. I can give you strategy all day and talk like, hand waving, but I recommend, trying to focus the conversation because an hour goes by really fast. So that's, if you do get stuck on something, feel free to reach out to me.
That's great. Thanks, Matt. Hey, I had a quick question. When you're talking about the bid and the auction, who are you like bidding against, or what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, great question. So the auction is what Google calls their the real-time algorithm action. So every time you type in a search into Google, so like used by the ad ranks that come up they go through the Google auction. And so I don't see any ads here yet, but all of this, let's go to the next page to see if we can find some ads. No, let's try this, maybe bike. Sometimes they stop showing for some reason, and I think it's because they know that I'm associated with the organization and they don't. But let me try, actually I do it incognito window and do like let's see if that helps. Okay, now we get lots of ads. So this ad is from the Google grant that I have. And when I click it, well, actually it already went through the auction. So so it went through the auction and it was determined at that time that it had a quality score and a bid that put it in position 1. And that auction happens real time, and that's kind of the magic of Google. And so the higher your quality score, the less you're going to pay and the more traffic you're going to get. And the bid strategy is what drives a lot of that bid price that you're going to end up paying. So if at the auction you have a high quality score and your bid is adequate, you're going to get a good rank. But this auction happens every time you search on it.
I see. Okay. All right. Interesting.
Yeah.
I always wondered how they
decided
which ads made it to the top.
Yeah, it's it's usually money or quality, and they base their quality on relevance, which is that, you know, how related the keywords are to the landing page to the ads.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you remember anything out of this, just remember those three things are the most important to make similar to each other, or to make highly relevant, because that's the magic of quality score. It's the keyword, landing page, and ads, how they work together. So just make them thematic, and you should do it. You should design your campaigns that way too. Like, you should have an ad group that is very specific to each landing page. So like your health insurance landing page should not be driving to, you know, your general visit page. You can do some landing page testing to see if they convert better, but in general, you want to design your ad groups around a specific landing page so that you can maximize that quality score.
Hmm.
So, yeah, so back to here. Um, oh, and then to kind of to wrap up that last point, once you use the maximize conversions bid strategy, then you can, Google will automatically bid your keywords up really, you know, high. Like, I think our average cost per click now in Heartland Health is like $7 or $9 or something, which is a lot more than $2. And the point is, now we can compete with the heavy hitters who are, you know, have bigger budgets than we do, because of the quality score optimizations and the maximize conversions bid strategy that gets around that $2 limit.
Okay.
So let's do. And how do you keep your grant active? Because Google will deactivate your grant if you just set it and forget it. So kind of the most important thing is to make changes to your account. As Bowie would say, changes. And you need to make any optimization, which is just, you know, you can go in and change one keyword and just like add a keyword. I do recommend reviewing your search terms once a week, at least once a month, and adding negative keywords to, especially for new campaigns. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So this is the most common foundational best practice that you should do for optimizing any Google account. And you just go to I do one campaign at a time. So we'll go to the school and sports physicals, and you go to the keywords tab, and you click on search terms. And this tells you what search terms are driving the traffic to your ads, to your site through your ads. And so you'll notice that a lot of these are vaccine related, and let's do the last 30 days because we already added a bunch of negatives for this particular one. The Halton vaccine, I noticed that this one was a new one that came up, and this was not related to their offering because they don't offer it. So in this case, I would just click it and add it as a negative keyword because we don't want to show on that because we don't have an offering related to that. So a negative keyword will prevent your ad from showing for any search term that includes that word. Athletic physical, these all look pretty good to me, because they're related to their offering. They do have vaccines. The Halton vaccine booking, these are all now excluded. I actually think I would just do add Halton as a negative, because then all of these will be prevented from showing with that single negative. So to do that, you just click on the negative keywords tab, click plus, paste Halton, click save. So now that'll prevent us from that junk traffic. So this kind of process I would do regularly, at least once a month, but ideally once a week. And I don't know Shopper Drug Mart California, but my guess is that's not related to us. So I'm going to go ahead and add that as a negative. But you get the idea. I won't go through all of these. Just thought I would show a couple of examples of how to add negatives that will improve the efficiency of your account, so that you preserve your money for the clicks that mean something to you. So next we've got a couple other tips. Don't bid on single word keywords for the Google grants, especially. This is one distinction from regular Google ad grant, from regular Google ad accounts. Single word keywords like bike, for example. Google is under the opinion that those kind of keywords are not going to drive valuable post-click behavior. They want things that are really relevant to your business. So that would be things like buy a used bike in Chicago, like that search term that I put up that triggered our ad. And it can get you in trouble with the grant if you do bid on single word keywords. So just follow their rules and you'll not get in trouble is kind of the point. And then use conversion-based bid strategies. That just gives you the opportunity to get higher, more expensive keywords that you wouldn't normally get with the regular manual cost per click bid strategy. How do you go ahead and apply for the grant? Well, here's the link. Go ahead and get started. And you need to convey how you'll use the grant, and ideally with activities beyond the click. So I mentioned this a couple of times, but when you submit your application, just make sure you focus on that post-click behavior. And that could be like, we want to generate more donations. We want more people to come to our events. We want to recruit more volunteers. You want really actions that are more significant than a click. And you'll also need to write an essay. If you want an example of this, email me. I can send you an example of ones that have worked in the past. There's pretty much a formula, and that formula is this. You just want to make sure you really define what you're hoping to accomplish with the grant. So again, just be consistent with what your goals are as an organization and what you want to accomplish with the grant. And that's a really cool person over there that's showing us how cool they are. Yeah, so that actually brings us to the end of it. So any questions you guys want to review, because we have a few minutes left.
Yeah, I know that was a lot of information. Does anybody have any questions? And any questions are fine. It can be simple or complex, because I know there's a lot of information.
Yeah, I went pretty deep. I tend to go fast just because, especially when there's nobody asking questions, I tend to talk fast. But I'm happy to review anything that might make more sense. If you want me to do another example, feel free to ask.
Anyone out there have any?
I have a question, Matt. For an organization, to do this, about how much time do you think needs to be dedicated to kind of managing it? Is this, an hour a day? Is this once a week? Like in terms of kind of, all those calibrations that you were showing us, how much staff time is needed?
So great question. It actually leads into, one thing that I am glad you mentioned. So one, if you're going to manage it yourself, it kind of depends on your familiarity or expertise with Google Ads. You can do it with an hour a week of your time if you want to just kind of set it and forget it. What I would recommend you do is have the setup part of it done with an expert, because the setup is the most important part, where you're maximizing your quality score, you're creating the campaign strategically, you're setting the right bid strategies. And so if it were my nonprofit and I wanted to maximize my spend, I would hire an expert like me, or, because it really will help you do it, maximize the value of your investment. And then after that, I meet with one organization once a month for an hour and just help them strategically optimize their grant. I try not to put people in the nonprofit poverty mindset, because this kind of resource could really help you if you did invest in it at a reasonable level. So one service I am offering nonprofits is I'm currently in the process of launching a program where people who want to learn Google Ads, they're like executives, um, they take my class, and then I pair them with a nonprofit account, and it's basically like a consulting account or consulting project where they can practice with your Google Ad account, and you get free traffic and consulting as a nonprofit client. Um, so that's one thing I offer. If you're interested in joining that program, we're launching it soon in the next couple months. So feel free to email me again with just information on that you want to join, and I'll add you to my list. And the goal will be to get you some free services, but also kind of offload some of that active optimizations to somebody else.
And one more question, and I could figure this out myself, but while we're here, it's the grant is technically like a gift in kind. So when organizations you're working with are just budgeting other money to pay your consulting services, is that accurate?
So the way the services work for the grant is, the grant here, I'll show you so the grant is basically all this traffic in Google Ads is the in-kind grant. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So this actually costs you money. While it looks like there's a cost of, in this case, $3,300.65, 3307.65 in the last 30 days. That the nonprofit doesn't actually pay that. That's all donated by Google.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then the services part, then the features that I offer, the executives who want to learn digital marketing, they'll pay me, and that covers the cost.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And I attend the sessions too. Like, I don't just unleash these uninformed people on you. I like read the calls, and then I slowly over time will hand over more responsibility to them leading the calls, and
Mhm.
I still help them with the strategy, but it's really it's kind of like a learning experience for everybody, because this platform is fairly complex, and there's not a lot of opportunities to learn it unless you have a practice account like these Google accounts. So it's a great way to learn.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for the great question.
And Christina asked, how often does Google reject a grant submission?
So in the about 40 or 50 that I've applied for, I was rejected once. So it's not often, as long as you do it right. One time it took me like 5 times I had to apply for. The first one, like, it took me a while to figure out the formula,
Mm-hmm.
but I've got that down to a science. So I haven't had problems being rejected except for one time, and that was because the nonprofit had some issues.
Got it.
Yeah, and the $10,000, so that it's actually $10,000 a month, and it starts over each month. So it lasts forever, at least unless Google discontinues the program, and they've been doing it for about 15 years. So it lasts hopefully forever unless Google changes their approach to the Google grants. And that's a great qualifying question, because it's a great resource. I mean, $10,000 a month can really be a game changer for your web visibility.
Yeah, that's a lot. Mm-hmm. And we'll be sending a follow-up email out after this webinar, and we'll be sure to include some of that information that Matt just shared about his services and his email address, so you can connect with him as well.
Yeah, and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. Just remember to include a note, because I have a terrible memory, and I get a lot of requests from people I don't know, and I try to just make sure that it's relevant to that I've had some exposure to, because otherwise it's hard to remember who's in my network.
Any other questions? Well, thank you, Matt. That's great. Do you mind pulling up the next slide on the PowerPoint real quick? I just want to make sure I go over just a little bit about
Yeah.
what we've got going on at the nonprofit coach as well.
Oops.
Great. So I just wanted to let you know a little bit more about the kinds of services that we provide here at the nonprofit coach. So there are coaching packages, 15 hours a year or 20 hours a year. So like once a month, having opportunity to consult or having one of the coaches, doing some of the fundraising or strategic planning kinds of work with you. There's a new grant writing course, a major giving program, board trainings and retreats, grant writing, marketing services. Something that's just recently started out as an executive director quarterly support session, which has been great. So it's just an opportunity for executive directors and CEOs of nonprofits to get together for an hour and talk about things that have similar challenges and problems, and learning from each other as well as from Elizabeth during those. And she's going to be starting to do something kind of similar with board members as well. And if you could just take it to the next screen, the one thing that's coming up is our next webinar, which is a mentor hour with international grant writer Barry Benson. This is really a great opportunity for folks who are new in the career of grant writing to find out more about what that's like. So he'll be answering questions like, how does it differ from other types of fundraising? What's it like to be a full-time grant writer? Pros and cons of careers in grant writing. So that'll be coming up in July. So as I said earlier about bi-monthly, we do these free webinars, and we would love to have you come back and join us again. If anybody has any final questions, otherwise this is how you contact us. Again, I'll send that out to you in an email so you have our contact information. And just thank you so much for coming. It was great to have you today. And Matt, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and information about Google Ad Grants.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And thank you, Christina, for the great questions.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Have a great one, guys. Thanks for coming.
And